Yeah, I can get elected in this room. Yes, I am a troublemaker, and it's wonderful to be here. I went through the duty-free, and I had to contemplate the state of duty-free and wonder if Jews can ever be duty-free. And then I crossed the street here, and I saw how much I can accomplish in 17 seconds, how those lights here, they tell you 18, 14, 13, and cross the street. And I never heard so many people who are not Bedouins talk about a tent as being here. Many of you I don't know, but I'm not worried, because in Israel, when I don't know someone and he says I look familiar, I'm always worried that I sued him. And it looks like you are just nice. I came to America as a swimmer. I unfortunately failed high school in Israel, but I was Israel swimming champion, and my American accent, to the extent that I have it, is a function of going to UCLA, and who couldn't care less about my grades. But the times in the 100 and 200 freestyle and 200, 400 medley, and I have an American education. I was kicking and screaming. I went to learn American government and Constitution, and I'm very moved to be in Washington and see the Lincoln Memorial and read the Gettysburg Address. This is really a fantastic visit to here. I'm one of the new criminals that Stav Shafir talked about on the first evening, in that the Jerusalem police, in its wisdom, established that I was carrying a Torah with the intent to read. And it's likely that I may do it again. The wall is an interesting place. It's where Israelis actually gave the keys to the holiest site to a minority group in Judaism, and that minority group, having the state funding behind it and the state power behind it, has abused the place. This continues because Israelis don't care. Many Israelis think it's the ultimate discotheque for the ultra-Orthodox, and you are awfully quiet about this. And it's time you used your wonderful nuisance value and started making trouble over this. I can see that there could be a first bat mitzvah at the wall. I'm really hoping that the Hadassah women who are coming to Israel to celebrate their 100th birthday, 2,000 strong, with their talitot and sifrei Torah, let's see the Jerusalem police tackle 2,000 Hadassah women. I'd love to see that. The first bus in Jerusalem that was segregated between men and women was the bus going to and from the wall. And in the beginning, secular Israelis felt that, well, since it serves the ultra-Orthodox community, why not? Then it spread to quite a few lines across Israel, to the point that there were 2,500 rides every day where women are sitting in the back of the bus, men are in the front of the bus. We went to the Supreme Court representing brave Orthodox women who were saying that this is unacceptable to them. In fact, it opened our minds to the idea that black comes in many shades, and many Orthodox women refuse to sit in the back of the bus. They're not one monolithic community. So we had the long time at the Supreme Court. Then there was a committee headed by that was appointed by the Minister of Transportation. Then the committee heard 1,500 testimonies. Some of them said that it's safer to sit in the back of the bus. And in fact, segregated buses have less accidents. But then the minister refused to accept the recommendation of his own committee when the committee said that it's illegal to segregate a bus in Israel. And then the Supreme Court made a decision that this sign has to be in all Israeli buses. It says, due to Supreme Court petition 47607, people can sit anywhere they wish on a bus. Anyone harassing a person, anybody harassing a person for sitting on a bus is guilty of a felony. Well, as you know, Israelis don't adhere to signs. And even though this is hanging in every bus, the segregation continued. In fact, when an Israeli sees a sign that says fresh paint, the first thing an Israeli does is just to make sure he's not a sucker. Is it really fresh paint or not? So we started the Freedom Rides, where we asked Israeli volunteers who wore stickers that say, "How am I dressed? 1-800, none of your business." Or "Shev ata me'achor." And then you joined, and we have a full-time person having you guys, and I'm inviting all of you, come to Israel and be a Freedom Rider. We can have all of you on buses. Tell us how much time you have, and you will ride a bus. And you will leave a room next to you for a woman, an Orthodox woman, to sit next to you, and we will change it one bus at a time. I love your President Jefferson. I think that I heard that when Kennedy had a breakfast for all the Nobel Prize laureates in the United States in the White House, he was asked, well, isn't that the most brain power ever in the White House? He said, well, maybe, except when Jefferson had breakfast on his own. Jefferson said that in religion, it's the opposite than in politics. In politics, united we stand, divided we fall. But in religion, divided we stand, united we fall. And when we look at the blossoming of religion in the United States, how right he was and how wrong we are in Israel to actually give religion to one voice, one minority voice, the Orthodox. I don't think that Orthodoxy is corrupt in any way innately, but it's the first time in Jewish history that there is the power and the funding of the state behind one faction of Judaism. We've always had arguments. The first Jew, Abraham, had an argument with his new God. That's the first thing he does. And we are an argumentative people. And Ehud Olmert sitting here, boy, we've had our arguments day in and day out, and yet these arguments are the Jewish sport, and if we ever had the Olympics in Jerusalem, that would be the sport we add. But all these healthy arguments that throughout Jewish history ended in Israel when the state backs only one faction. There is only one product on the shelf, and that's orthodoxy. One of the very disturbing things we see now is that among the 4,000 state-paid rabbis in Israel, 49 are engaged in racist incitement. We have published a report, Love the Stranger as Yourself, ? It's on our website. I work for an organization called, it's a very sad acronym, IRAC, Israel Religious Action Center. You might know Rabbi David Saperstein, the head of the RAC, who's right here. So IRAC published this report, and it looks at how the state of Israel turns a blind eye to these 49 rabbis. And even though they are regularly inciting against the Israeli Arab, who is 21% of our population, Israeli citizens saying to people, don't rent an apartment to them, don't employ them, don't allow them to fraternize with Jewish women. And worst of all, a book called Torat HaMelech that says that we can kill the non-Jew because he may grow up to be the enemy. These are unacceptable things, Jewishly, halachically, morally, ethically. Chutzpah, it's got to end. So I see a fist of religious coercion above the heads of people at the wall, Israelis of all sorts. That clenched fist is something we've got to work on. One of the problems is that recent study shows that Israelis think of the Shoah every day. Every day there is a Shoah moment. When you're in line with other people to get soup, when your feet or hands are cold, when a baby is crying and you're not very close to drinks or food, when trains come and go, when you hear the German language, when you see a cubby hole and you think, can a kid fit in there? These are Israelis, third, fourth generation in Israel, and still a Shoah moment every day. The Shoah has turned into an all-encompassing religion, in some ways replacing Zionism and a healthy understanding of what it is to be an Israeli patriot. So this is an important point. So I would like to relate to a pasuk that says, "Le'olam yitpalel adam bevayit sheyesh bo chalonot." A person should always pray in a place that has windows. We should always be looking out and also having others look in. You can't pray in a bunker. You can't put yourself in 2012 in a bunker and think you are in the 40s of the last century. So since it's the eve of Pesach, I am applauding you for asking the ultimate question, She'elat HaShe'elot, why not? The most important Jewish question, why not? It's time we felt your voice, we felt your nuisance value, and it's time to take this fist that is all over Israel and put it where it belongs, over the Jewish heart. That's where it belongs. The Jewish heart and the Jewish fist belong with each other on Yom Kippur, and they belong together all year long. This is where it belongs, not over women at the wall, not over converts that are newcomers to Israel, not over all these things where the Jewish fist is hanging, but over the Jewish heart. So don't lose heart. Have a wonderful dinner. I'm delighted to be here. And if anyone has questions or arguments or anything to do, I am in table 9, and I would be delighted to hear from every one of you. Toda rabah.